Hey everyone, welcome back. So if you like all things sobriety and alcohol recovery related, consider subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up if you like it, and clicking the bell notification button so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. Okay, so you've made the brave and loving decision to quit drinking. And that's generally, not too hard on, say, like a Wednesday afternoon. But what about the holidays? What about the week leading up to Christmas? What about New Year's Eve? There are so many holidays celebrated between the end of November and the beginning of January, so chances are you're probably going to get invited to some sort of festive gathering this year. And this time of year is often joyous and happy and exciting and hopeful, even though it's a little bit stressful. But for a lot of people, like people who either just quit drinking or who are still only like a few years sober even, the holidays can be super stressful, really sad, anxiety inducing, very triggering. It could be just a really terrible time. Even though we really don't want it to be, we want to have fun just like everyone else, but we don't drink anymore. So like, how are you supposed to get through it? Well, keep watching. I will give you 7 tips on getting through. So if you're anything like me, you might feel awkward being in a social setting without a drink in your hands because you're not drinking anymore. So what do? Fill your hands with something. Non-alcoholic options. There are actually so many. I remember years ago to have non-alcoholic beer, say for instance, there was barely any choices and they all tasted like moose piss. But nowadays, there's actually a lot on the market. There is non-alcoholic wine as well that I've heard tastes a lot like 7-Up, like not even much like wine. There are lots of different like sparkling, bubbly waters. There's lots of options out there that you can even mix together with like bitters or with like Seedlip, a non-alcoholic spirit type drink. So you can still make a fancy drink and have that in your hand in a social gathering, but of course there won't be alcohol in it. And a lot of times people don't even notice, or if they do notice, they usually don't care. I did make a video on different responses that you can say when someone asks you if you want to drink and you're at a party. It'll be down in the description. And don't assume that the host of this party, or even the restaurant that you go to, or the bar or whatever, don't assume that they would have non-alcoholic drinks for you. I've been to many house parties and they're like, oh, you don't drink? Okay, and they open the fridge and they have like milk and water and like some of their kids' juice boxes. Like, expect that. So bring your own. The next tip would be to plan ahead. For instance, bring your own car so that you have your own drive back. And consider not saying that you'll be the designated driver, even though a lot of people will probably ask you and maybe even expect that you will be. Because chances are all the people who are drinking are going to want to stay much later than you. And that's another part of planning ahead. Plan ahead for how you might be thinking or feeling. It's perfectly normal for you to go to a party and end up feeling sad or jealous or envious or angry even. So be prepared that you might want to leave earlier than you expected. So have a way out. And it might feel awkward or like you're missing out or like you're no fun anymore if you want to leave early. But honestly, it's worth it because you're saving your own mental health. And the next morning when you wake up and you don't have a hangover and you're not exhausted, you will be so happy that you did. Because for real, you won't be really missing out on much of anything. Like, people get drunker and drunker, louder and louder, they talk closer and closer to you, and you just wouldn't be on the same level as them anymore. So you might as well go home and then another thing too, I find my energy would get drained a lot quicker when I'm sober at a party with people who are drinking. And when my energy is like diminishing quickly and then it gets down to that level and I'm like, you know what, even if I want to stay, I'm just too friggin' tired. I want to go home, and that's perfectly okay. And that leads me into my third tip of increasing your support system over the holidays. If you're going to a holiday party where nobody knows you're sober, Consider, and first off, that's totally okay. You don't need to tell anybody ever. It's your business. Do it when you feel safe and when you feel comfortable. But if nobody knows, consider telling it just at least one person that you trust the most when you go there. That way, when say you want to leave early or you're having big feelings or you're whatever, you can tell that person and that person will understand. And that person can maybe tell the rest of the party that, uh, you had to go home for some reason or whatever. Like they can cover for you if you need. They can also be the buffer between you and people who are maybe pressuring you to drink. They can join in on drinking non-alcoholic drinks with you. They could just be like straight up like, no, Billy says he doesn't want to drink. Like, it's all good, Billy, Just really nice to have that person there. If you can't have somebody there, tell somebody in your circle, your sobriety support circle, that you're going to be going to a holiday party, and so you can text them. Even if it's like a Facebook group that you're part of. I know some of the ones that I'm in, if you post in there and say, hey, I'm going to a party, like, is there somebody I can reach out to if I need help? You'll get phone numbers. Or someone will say, you can just message me whenever you want. So have that person on standby and be like, okay, I'm going to a party Friday night at 8 o'clock. I might text you if I'm freaking out or whatever, or I'll text you when I get home and tell you how it went. It feels really comforting knowing that there's somebody on standby to listen if you need to vent. Part of being prepared also is making sure that you have a sobriety toolkit ready. I wrote an article all about that and I made a video all about that. I'm going to link it down below in the description. Basically, it's whenever you start to feel super triggered, you can turn to your sobriety toolkit and it will remind you why you are staying sober, and it will remind you to calm and center yourself. And it's basically like a life preserver when you're feeling like you're spiraling. Fourth tip is to start new traditions. Maybe your timeline of events over the holidays consists of the same people, the same parties, the same schedule. So in sobriety, do something different, try something new. You don't have to just stick to the same schedule. You don't have to see the same people and do the same things. Of course, you're not doing the same things, you're not drinking. So what do you fill your time with? There are so many things you can fill your time with. You can cook a bunch, bake a bunch, do at-home spa days, volunteer. There's so many volunteer opportunities. All you gotta do is Google your city name, comma, volunteer. You're gonna find stuff over the holidays. If you are religious, you can participate in religious events that are happening in your neighborhood. Babysit your friends' kids. They would love that. You could create annual self-portraits, or just spend some quality time with a very small select amount of your family and leave after an hour, go home and have a bubble bath. Whatever your new thing is, just make sure that it makes your insides feel warm and fuzzy and happy and full, rather than high energy, stressful, and anxious. Number 5 is to prepare for alcohol gifts. It is so friggin' unfortunate that a lot of people assume that just because you're of legal drinking age, alcohol is the perfect gift for you. People they mean well. They really do mean well. And if they don't know that you're sober, man, even if they do know you're sober, a lot of times people just don't get it. They'll be like, oh, like, you actually don't actually drink? They don't connect sometimes that I'm sober means that I don't drink. Honestly, it's a thing. So they mean well. And like I said, a lot of people just assume adult, booze, perfect. Because people are sort of lazy sometimes when it comes to gift giving, and they're not very creative sometimes when it comes to gift giving. You know how it goes. So even weed, where I live, cannabis, you can buy it at the liquor store. So that's another thing, like adult, weed, adult, booze. Of course, perfect gift. No, it isn't. So be prepared that you might receive those gifts. So I would recommend to, again, have a friend on standby. Tell that friend, hey, so I'm sober. I might get alcohol as a gift. My aunt always gives me a fancy bottle of wine every year. So she knows I'm sober, but she might still do it. So if I get alcohol as a gift, I will text you immediately and you have to please take it off my hands. Tell somebody. Don't give yourself the chance of hiding it and not actually giving it away to a friend and hiding it in your house or maybe even drinking it that night. Don't give yourself that risk of being triggered and relapsing or having a slip. Give it away immediately, or you could, I mean, depending on who gave you the gift, you could say like, sorry, I actually don't drink anymore. Like I either already told you or I'm sorry I didn't tell you, and say, you know, I'm not going to enjoy this. Like, please, you can have it. It would make me happy to know that you're going to enjoy this. You know, say whatever you feel is necessary, or secretly give it to like your cousin, you know, like after you say, oh, thank you so much, and just like keep it to the side, and then later on be like, hey, fuck it, here you go, Merry Christmas. Like a lot of times people wouldn't even notice that, like, hey, that was your gift. They'll just be like, oh, booze, cool, thanks, you know? My sixth tip is to know your limits. And yes, I know, if you're anything like me, whenever I would hear know your limits or something about limits, it would be laughable because back when I was still drinking, I didn't have limits. So when you quit drinking, how are you supposed to know what your limits are if you've never had them before? Developing your limits it will take time. It will take trial and error. So don't be discouraged if it takes you a while for you to, you know when it's the right time to leave a party, to know your limits of like oversharing, say at a party, or know your limits of how much you can take on, like at say if you're hosting a party, how much you can take on with like, well, I mean, I don't drink anymore now, so I can make the entire feast, you know? Maybe in your head you think that's great, but if you don't really have a limit and you don't know what that's going to feel like, maybe this year you choose to do that and it burns you out and you're cranky and you hate it and it's horrible. Well, there you go. Now you know a limit of, I can't make a full Christmas feast, you know? So even though you feel like you might be able to take on more or, you know, be the one to babysit all the kids or whatever it is, even though you feel like you might be able to do that now that you're sober, you might not, because you might be blindsided by sudden anger and jealousy. You know, that's happened to me where I'm like, I was so excited to go somewhere. I show up, I'm around people I love, but then I look around and I see people drinking and bonding more. It appeared like they were bonding more. And like, you know, and then I would start to feel sad and angry that I didn't get to do that either. Which, by the way, that feeling does go away. And now I don't feel that way of like, I don't get to drink anymore. Now I'm so happy I don't have to drink anymore. So think ahead about how you might feel in a certain situation, or how you might feel at New Year's Eve when you go to that hotel party. And if you think that you'll be too anxious or too sad or whatever it is, plan to only go for 2 hours or plan to just straight up not go. Know your limits around how much drinks you're going to bring with you too, like non-alcoholic drinks, obviously. Because before, I know for me, I would always get a 12-pack of Oland's and a bottle of wine if I was going to go to a party. And well, I would put the wine in a Gatorade bottle and drink the wine on the way to the party, and then chug one of the beers, be like in the driveway before I knocked on the door to get into the party. But you know what I mean? Like I would always have an abundance of liquids to put inside of my body. But now that you're sober, your limit might be like, you know what? I actually only need 3 beverages for the whole night, you know, because you're not drinking to be in an altered state. You're drinking to stay hydrated and to have something in your hand. And lastly, treat yourself with extra kindness. This point might seem stupid and pointless and Jesus, Leanne, this isn't advice. Treat yourself with kindness. No, but like actually for real, because I mean, last holiday season as well, like treat yourself with kindness then because of the pandemic and COVID and all that kind of stuff, you know? So this year, depending on where you live, of course, I know where I am here in Nova Scotia, I'm pretty sure we're in another lockdown. I don't really know what that means, but like gathering limits, a lot of people not being able to see family, a lot of family members aren't here this Christmas, whereas maybe they were here last Christmas. I feel like these holiday times is extra hard for a lot of people. So if you are sober on top of that, first off, good friggin' job, because getting through difficult times sober is actually, well, it's the best possible way to do it because you're clear-headed and you aren't, your emotions aren't extreme. That's how I was, at least when I was drinking, is if I'd be going through something shitty, then and I add alcohol on top of it, my emotions are going to be extreme. I'm going to be extremely happy when I'm blocking everything out when I get drunk. I'm going to come crashing down when I'm hungover, anxious the next day, because that's what alcohol would literally do to your body, on top of the sadness and stress and stuff of the life circumstances. So when you cut out alcohol and cut out hangovers and cut out shame drinking, cut out guilt all around alcohol, then you are left with more of your faculties to deal with tough situations. So again, treat yourself with extra kindness because shit's hard. Forgive yourself for staying up too late, or for watching too much TV, or for crying when you drove past the liquor store. Like, for real, give yourself a huge high five and a huge hug because you are staying sober through what is arguably the hardest time of the year to stay sober. So you're doing it and you can do it. So for real, like, feel that pride, because there's so many people who wish they could get sober and stay sober, especially through the holidays. And you not only want to do that, but you're doing it. You're sober right now. Even if you're not sober right now, it's okay, because tomorrow morning is a new day and you can choose to not drink tomorrow. And then you can choose not to drink the next day. Reevaluate it day by day, hour by hour. I'm not drinking right now. I have juice in a pickle jar. P.S. This is 1 liter. Drink 3 of these a day. You're great. You can get through the holidays sober. So are you feeling FOMO and feeling strong desires to drink? Well, those are just your old habits, old coping mechanisms, old ways of thinking that are still coming up. If you were one way for so long, for years, for decades, one way of thinking, one automatic thought, one way of doing and being, and then you quit drinking, it's not just quitting a beverage, it's changing your mindset. So if you were one way for a very long time, it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to take a while. So don't be too startled if you feel super triggered, even if you were sober for a year and you were fine with it. Don't be startled that, like, oh wow, you might actually have some real strong cravings around this time of year. That doesn't mean that you're not making progress. That doesn't mean that you're destined to relapse. That just means your brain is doing brain stuff and you're used to thinking one way, or it's super triggery this time of year. Even the smell of, like, a Christmas tree can bring on a craving for rum and eggnog, say. So it's freaking hard, and you're gonna get through it, and you can get through it. And just as a bonus, I thought I would create some affirmations for you. I know, affirmations, oh my God. But for real, this actually helps. So take a screenshot of the next screen, because this is where you're going to see a list of all the things that you're going to say to yourself. Say if you're at a party and you're feeling overwhelmed and sad and you feel like you might even cry, go to the bathroom, look at this screenshot, say them out loud. Honestly, it would be the best, and looking at yourself in the mirror while you're saying them. But just say them in your head, or just mouth the words if you have to. Every day I'm getting better. I can make it through today. I respect my body. I am proud of myself. This negative feeling I'm experiencing is only temporary. I can make it through this morning, afternoon, night. I am in control. I don't need alcohol to be happy. I don't need alcohol to feel worthy. I am worthy. I am strong. I can do hard things. I'm going to be okay. I can leave right now if I want to. I choose how to feel, not them. I'm making good choices. I like the person I'm becoming. I am loved and appreciated. I'm doing the best I can, and that's enough. I am enough. So I hoped this helped. And let me know down below Any tips that you find are helping you or that have helped you in the past, because other people might read your comment and get a lot of value out of it. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you have an awesome December, no matter what you do, and know that I'm proud of you, even if you're 24 hours sober, even if you're not sober yet and you want to be. I'm proud of you. And remember, you can do hard things. You deserve happiness, and you are loved. Where's the camera? There it is.